Some people aren't exhausted from work. They're exhausted from trying not to disappoint anyone. So they keep saying yes. They keep showing up. They keep overextending, even when they're already running on empty. And eventually, the pressure to be dependable starts costing them their peace. If you've been carrying that kind of pressure lately, this conversation is for you.
3, 2, 1, yeah!
Welcome back to Office Optimism with me, Shirala. This is a space for high performers, leaders, and ambitious professionals navigating growth, pressure, and uncertainty with clarity, intention, and grounded optimism. Today, we're talking about something that many people carry quietly: the emotional exhaustion of trying not to let people down. Because being dependable is a beautiful quality, but when the fear of disappointing people becomes the reason you overextend yourself, it can slowly pull you away from your own well-being. This is the hidden driver behind overfunctioning. Overfunctioning is often praised in workplace culture. People see someone who is responsive, reliable, always available, willing to carry more, and it gets interpreted as strong work ethic or leadership potential. Sometimes it is, but sometimes it's fear. Fear of disappointing others, being perceived negatively, creating an inconvenience, letting the team down, or being seen as unreliable. So people compensate by overcommitting, over-explaining, or over-carrying. Research on people-pleasing behaviors and workplace burnout suggests that individuals who tie their value to external approval are more likely to experience chronic stress, emotional exhaustion, and difficulty maintaining boundaries. And over time, constantly managing everyone else's expectations becomes mentally and emotionally draining. And at first, this level of reliability can even look admirable, but eventually there's a cost. So next, let's talk about what happens when reliability slowly turns into self-abandonment. Being dependable is healthy, but constantly sacrificing yourself to avoid disappointing others is not sustainable. And many people don't even realize that they've crossed that line until they feel emotionally depleted, resentful, mentally overloaded, or unable to rest without guilt. They answer messages immediately, say yes automatically, push through exhaustion, carry responsibilities that were never fully theirs, and eventually, reliability stops feeling like integrity and starts feeling like survival. Research from the American Psychological Association continues to show strong links between chronic workplace stress, emotional exhaustion, and blurred boundaries between responsibility and well-being. Because the nervous system was never designed to stay in a constant state of emotional availability. So if this pattern is exhausting, why is it so difficult to stop? Next, let's talk about why disappointing people can feel emotionally heavier than we realize. For many people, this pattern did not begin at work. It began much earlier. Sometimes being the dependable one became part of your identity. You learned to anticipate needs, avoid conflict, keep things running smoothly, and make sure that everyone else was okay. And over time, being needed started to feel connected to being valued. So disappointing people doesn't just feel uncomfortable, it can feel unsafe, emotionally unsafe. Research on attachment, approval-seeking behaviors, and social belonging shows that humans are deeply wired for connection and acceptance, which means this isn't weakness, it's conditioning. And once you recognize that, you can begin responding differently. And honestly, this became very real for me during a season where I was carrying far too much. There was a season where I became so focused on not wanting to disappoint people that I stopped even noticing how much I was disappointing myself. I was saying yes constantly, showing up constantly, carrying responsibilities emotionally, mentally, and professionally. And because I care deeply about people, it felt justified. But over time, I noticed something shifting in me. I was exhausted in ways that rest alone was not fixing. Not because I didn't care, but because I was carrying everything like it was all my responsibility. Everyone's needs, everyone's expectations, everyone's emotions, and somewhere in the middle of all of that, I stopped checking in with myself. Then one day, it clicked. Being supportive does not require self-erasure. I could care deeply about people without abandoning myself in the process. And that realization changed the way I started thinking about boundaries, responsibility, and even my emotional availability. Because the goal is not to stop caring. The goal is to stop carrying what was never yours to hold alone. So next, let's talk about the reframe that begins to shift this pattern. You are allowed to be caring without carrying everything. You are allowed to have limits. You are allowed to rest. And you are allowed to disappoint people sometimes without making that mean that you're failing them. Because here's the truth. People's discomfort is not always your responsibility to fix. And boundaries are not betrayal. They are clarity. The healthiest form of support is sustainable support, not self-sacrifice disguised as strength. So how do we begin breaking the cycle without losing compassion? Let's close with a few practical ways to start shifting the pattern. 1. Pause before automatically saying yes. Create space between the request and the response. Not every request requires an immediate commitment. 2. Separate care from responsibility. You can care deeply without making yourself responsible for everything. Those are not the same thing. 3. Notice guilt without immediately obeying it. Guilt is not always a signal that you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it's simply the discomfort of changing a familiar pattern. 4. Ask yourself, what is actually mine to carry here? That question alone can create clarity. And here's your joyful point. Before automatically saying yes this week, pause and ask yourself, is this coming from care or fear of disappointing someone? Then respond with clarity, not guilt. Let that steady you. We've now made it to the Office Optimism focal point. If this resonated with you, like and share this with someone who may be carrying more than they realize. Sometimes the strongest people need permission to put something down. You do not have to exhaust yourself to prove that you care. You do not have to overextend yourself to be valuable. And you are allowed to support others without abandoning yourself in the process. Keep honoring your limits. Keep choosing sustainable strength and keep shining. Bye-bye.